Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emmy TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Hand me down my walking cane, hand me down my head. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling today. I'm feeling real spicy. What's up, Book?
What's going on?
Feeling real spicy today.
We got Brother Dave in here. Brother Dave, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing?
What's going on, Brother Dave?
Still standing.
Still standing tall.
Man.
We're still standing. So, Brother Dave, what an interesting day yesterday. Like, today what we gonna do? We was gonna have a guest, and guest had situations, so they had to cancel, right? So we was gonna get into this whole thing about domestic violence and abuse and relationship, DMV, right? Talk about her book. So we had to reschedule it. Antoinette James in her book Behind the Badge. Very, very interesting story. All right. Made for television, made for a movie, whatever. If you don't know, go get her book Behind the Badge. It's on Amazon and anywhere you can read the book. I was hoping she'd come in so we could really, really get in depth into some of the things. If you haven't read the book, it's during the Kilpatrick administration, and it's pretty powerful. She did a great job. I'm very proud of her. Antoinette and I go way back. Antoinette is actually one of the people who brought me all the way to Lansing to speak to the children years ago, right? And I'm looking forward to having that conversation. But today we're gonna kick this off, Dave. Right? We're gonna talk about the why men are marrying these days, right? The first half, and then we'll talk about the emotional male, the things that goes into why our boys and the acceptable culture and behavior we have for boys today, right? It's just amazing how, man, if you want something for a boy, if he's not playing sports or something like that, maybe we got a little different culture around our boys, right? And so we're going to have that conversation. But first, let's pay a bill or two. Shout out to TCF Bank, Huntington Bank, Chase Bank, who continues, the Barmer Group, Your Inspired Journey, and who all continues to make this show possible. And we're working on another sponsor to get some things really growing with this podcast. Dave, we're going to be setting up a photo op, all of that, right? Because we want to really put out the intelligence that we have in this podcast. So, again, why are men marrying these days, Dave? What happened? Suddenly, there's been an uptick in marriages. I say COVID had a real impact, right?
I agree to it. I can agree to that.
Yeah, I say COVID had a real impact, and also men are recognizing quality women, right? That they putting down the skip they putting them down, right? And so you see, there's a lot more singleness going on around here. we still got a say so in who we gonna marry, and there's a lot of men who saying no. I think I'm gonna go with my high school sweetheart. Like I'm going back. What I see out here right now, and what I'm dealing with, and oh no, I think I'm gonna, let me pick up the phone and call my friend. We used to be friends, and now, she ain't got nobody. Ain't got nobody. Let me talk to her, right? Because really, the club scene and the thoughtness and the bouginess and you ain't on my level. And a man, if you can't make the money I make, I ain't interested in you. All these prerequisites for the male, men are going, okay.
Yeah, I think that went out the door with men and women. The whole money thing. A lot of people's perspective had to change. When something was ripped away from you, or you was forced out, or you was laid off, and you know what I'm saying, or you had people who got laid off and then had to get a job that was paying way less than what they were making. And, people who went without working was on unemployment for the first time. You know what I'm saying? So I was on unemployment for the first time.
Yeah.
The first time in my life. I've never had to be on unemployment.
Yeah. But that bedside was warm. It wasn't empty. See, there's a big difference when that bedside is empty. You get tired of toys and pockets and making booty calls, right? I don't know if I wanted to come over today. I don't know if I want to deal with him today, right? Because he going to come in here, I don't know if I want to, come on in. And so you see it. I see it. I see a lot of people. They still playing that game, right? And I see a lot of men marrying. Men who took their player card, set it on fire during COVID, and decided it's going to be you. And I see a lot of happy couples. And I'm trying to figure out why, so just like you said, maybe it was COVID. Dave, maybe I had to really take a look at myself. Maybe COVID made you take a look at yourself. And for some people, that means I'm gonna harden my stance. Like I'm gonna really, I don't care how good he look. I don't care I ain't marrying no janitor, right? I ain't marrying no dude and no McDonald's. Like he ain't got no money, right? Those types of things. So yeah, you got your own money now, sister, right? But we got a number of other issues too, right? You got an increase in woman on woman action. Yeah. You got one guy, two girls, right? Menage a trois and trios, and some of that stuff had to come to a halt too. Yeah. Yeah. So Dave, tell me, what you think it was, brother?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I didn't know it was increase. I thought it was a decrease, but I guess I missed that mark. Maybe with the COVID, with the COVID, maybe y'all seeing something more. What I had been gathering through my own schoolwork is that women were finding men to be economically unattractive, not as competent, not as financially steady, and stable. I should say stable and steady in
They
their
talking about their
development.
own sons, Dave.
Yeah, well, I'm just what I've read and just studying in class. Is
Right.
my second master's is in marriage and family therapy. So what we've seen is an increase in women in every area of the professions. For example, we have more increase in colleges of advancement, such as doctors, lawyers, teachers. We saw last week, as we discussed, 76 of the population for education is being done by females.
Mm-hmm.
So if the increase, as you said just momentarily, that the bed looks warmer when you got somebody, or it feels warm when you got somebody laying next to you, also your pocket feel a little warm when you got somebody that got a big check rolling in. And that's not to say that women basically are the breadwinners, but if we have a higher population of females who are basically running the household by cook a crook, as they say, then that may be because, again, the unattractiveness of men being able to provide. It's also been said that during I'm reading an article from Inc. that that women are making such an increase economically that they just don't want to settle. So, and you can see this if you observe just in the public, you'll see that a great deal of the women are driving the bigger cars, and who's sitting in the passenger side is the man. So, if Joe Slick has got his halfway game together and he can deliver it, then he probably would be the one sitting in the passenger side eventually until he played his car right, and then he probably get to drive the car. But this is all different compared to where I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where the men were primarily the providers, the economic provider.
Let's stop right there.
Okay.
So the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back. Let's think about this now. Right? Because now we're talking about the restoration of family is what we do. Right? So now let's go back to the 60s and 70s when they wasn't so educated. Right? And the man was the breadwinner. He accepted them. Men took women off the street and made them wives. Men took women that wasn't so educated, dropped out, brought them in, helped them get educated, made them wives. What happened in the transition, even in the 70s, when men abandoned their homes so their children could have a roof over their head? No one gave them credit. They were not appreciated. They were told that this was their job. Then something happened and money became their God, and so did success. And because they started getting this privilege, they could have these opportunities that the black male couldn't, because the black male, he pulled himself out of harm's way. Right? Today, pulling a black male out of harm's way, when you yelling and screaming that he doesn't come up to par, you don't have the skill set that he had to help you come up to par. See, when he was in that position, and here's the thing about this black family, this dynamic, the across the board, the family dynamic, that's not the case for many other cultures. So yeah, she might be educated the whole nine, but as I express, other cultures, the stay-at-home dad, they're making money. The stay-at-home dad makes money, right? But if you are uneducating the male and he's being taught to stay out the way and he doesn't get the proper fathering and things like that, now he becomes real unattractive as an adult, which is why I said basically you are talking about your own son. Because your sons, your sons, Dave, they fall in a different category. Why your son in a different category? Why your son being patient, wise, making his decisions, not out here? Why my son making decisions, healthy decisions, being patient, provide for his family, not out here? Where did he get that from, Dave? Right? My son could have, right? He's educated.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My son, my daughter, she had options. What makes them different? Right? My youngest son, 18, size 15 shoe. I'm going to have to watch him because they're going to be Cam fine. See, they're going to see my son. Oh, he is. Look at that. He's 6'3". Fine. Look at him. And he go to work every day. He got plans and he got his own money. This boy already got his own money. So you got to watch the Cougars with him, because I experienced that. I was 18 with somebody 40. You see what I'm saying? So you got to watch them. But in my point that I'm making, Dave, is we got away from what was really important. Two was always better than one. The male being broken the way he has been, and the things that happen to him, and the marginalization, and the not being able to get a job, those types of things, right? Now he has to go here, and he doesn't fit the fancy. There are a lot of men out here doing great without fitting the fancy. You see? He's out here. He goes to work every day. He's saving his money, and he's deciding on what woman he wants to be with. And it's some guys out here. Let me tell you how bad it is. They got doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me? I'm talking young cats. They got doctors and lawyers. Why the women going for them? What make them attractive? Right? What make them attractive? Because they got that manhood. They had that fathering. That fathering. So because he had the fathering, he has a certain amount of confidence that even no matter what level of education you got, if I want you, I'll get you. Mm-hmm. It ain't hard for me. Mm-hmm. Right? But that's my confidence. That's my manhood. My kid, they got that in them. Your son has that in him. But your child will have that in her. I don't have to really but I don't have to dog you. I don't have to undervalue you. But I can see something in you that we could build together. Right? And so I just wanted you to pause right there for a second, because I think a lot of times we forget what men have done. It's what have you done for me lately, Janet Jackson, and where she at? Mm-hmm. Who she got? What she been through? And so everybody be like, Janet Jackson, she's married to a billionaire. Was married to a billionaire. What she got now? How important is two better than one? I want to talk about that part, Dave. Because to me, I think in the highlighting relationships and what men are seeing, we discredit men for what God said he was wisdom. Dr. Miles Monroe said, right, today the woman has everything she needs except for a man. The covering, the security, something that she can follow. I heard somebody else say because men don't follow Christ or follow the Lord or have a higher calling in their vision and everything else, it's hard for women to really follow.
Well, yes, I didn't get to the point, but what I presented the initial complaint. Mm-hmm. Most people complain without really explaining. Mm-hmm. So we listen to the complaints of the problems, and as we go back to history, as we said, the men of the early years, there was tradition, there was culture, and we usually just follow suit. Unfortunately, we don't have a strong tradition, we don't have a strong culture when it comes down to African American people in its fullness. Now, it exists, but it's so divided because, again, as you said in another show, material has become people's God, whether it's money, fame, fortune, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, sir.
So we lose sight. Yes, men have done great things, have accomplished great things, but as I told some women in another discussion, unfortunately, the pendulum has swung the other way. The thing you complain about the men in the past, now you become yourself. Yes. And this is what, for example, mother comes home now. She don't come home after she been home all day. Then she go to the grocery store, come home, go to cook and clean, all the old traditional things. And she's happy to see everybody comes in from school, work, and do their thing. She comes home, and instead of her, going in and do the old work the old mothers did, she goes, I need my time. I'm tired. Where's my food? And so now she gets to experience what she complained about when the father came home, the kids didn't do this and do that, because now she's in that same position. So she gets compromised. And this is what we have to be careful. One of the things that I really believe about life is check and balances. Many times we don't do check and balances. You made another statement in regards to men don't follow God like you. Well, traditionally, prior to in the 1900s, men were following, but then as men were following God, but as time progressed on, and this is across the borderline, if the tradition of maintaining a spiritual relationship with God was not founded in the household, 9 times 10 is going to be very difficult to bring it into the household. So therefore, what you see, they complain about this, and if you go to most churches, especially black churches, that church is filled with mostly women. Again, but what type of women are we talking about? We talking about women who are the example of Proverbs 31. You're asking for something of men, but what are you contributing yourself as a woman, a spiritual woman? Are you the one that's still trying to show you wear pants too? Which that's okay if you're just looking at it as an attire. But if you're looking at it as a role or a position, then you change the nature of the household. Yes. So how can you say you want to follow somebody when at the end of the day, you're trying to lead them all the time. So, and what sets up there? So, what sets up is that our children now are looking at parenting. And when they see parenting, that who really controls? I can tell you right now, and this is not vanity. I usually can look at a couple. I took a girl out. I was in New Jersey, and we was all at a river, a boardwalk. And so I said, I'm going to do something. She thought I wanted to just, I hawk women, right? But I said, I'm going to teach you something about observation. I said, I want you to tell me who you determine running that household when you see a couple. And after a while, she started recognizing who was running the household and who was not. So even the disposition that women carry today is different from the tradition of what women did back in the day. And again, we're more educated, we're more aware of things, but we don't use this knowledge and wisdom to the advantage that God intended us to use it for. We use it as a disadvantage to control, manipulate, and influence each other in a way that's only self-gratifying and not self-reward. And not exercising selflessness towards the rewards that you would get from that. So it's really a challenge that women struggle with because a great deal they have to move the same thing they complain about with men having ego. Now their ego is rising up. So I'm not complaining. This is just observation of behavior that we see every day. And if you look at our boys, the boys we have in our program right now, we can see the lack of masculinity just by the nature of their existence, their status. We can see that as soon as they come in the door. And we can see when the women, they drop their children off, we can see their masculinity. You see what I'm saying? Now, something's wrong. Here's, I was telling a woman yesterday, and I'm going to get off this horse. I was telling her yesterday, and I told my former sister-in-law this today. I said, here's where our problem is. We got more people trying to convert our boys to exercise femininity because they're trying to move them to sensitivity. God wants us to be sensitive, to be compassionate, empathetic, acknowledge other people as value important. But they're trying to convert us over, our boy, to being more feminine. That distorts everything because at the end of the day, there's confusion and division. And so the child, male child, is confused. So he don't know what role he's supposed to play. And he don't even know how to exercise sensitivity because he gets it confused with femininity. So we have a lot of things we have to address. There's so many factors into this whole thing about marriage, the emotional male, men getting married. Yeah, I would get married too, man. If I'm sitting up here and this girl the last girl I dated, she was bringing $250,000 into her household. This girl bought by herself at 40 years old a $650,000 house. And so when we got into a debate, well, I call it an argument based on her end. My end was just a debate because we got into something because she thought just because she running her own household and living life that I was going to be moved by her finances. But I'm so past that. But so many men get caught up because they see this, man, you got to go. Matter of fact, my partner introduced me, said, man, y'all could be a power couple. I said, man, I'm a power couple by myself. What do you mean? Me, myself, and I, with God leading everything, I'm a power couple right there. I'm coupled with God. Now, I want a woman to be with me, but I don't want her to regulate me. See, so we got it all twisted, man. There's so many factors here. And if men are getting married more, you say, I think it's not even out of the original reason for getting married was to build family and to be founded on love. Love is the glue to all the things that make everything work.
From my observation, I think it is a uptick in marriages, but I also saw an uptick in divorces too. I think the pandemic has been this has been a season of exposure on all sides, on all fronts. So whether you was on the side of team marriage or you on the side of, team divorce, you know what I'm saying? This season was really about exposure. So people who was living with somebody and they was really living with a stranger, they found out.
Oh yeah,
because you had no choice but to be in this person's space now more often than you would have been, because our jobs and everything else have been smoke screens for most people. Mm-hmm. You can avoid a lot of things because you at work. You come home, y'all already tired. You deal with what you got to do with the kids, and then y'all laying down and y'all going to bed, and then y'all start your routine over again. You know what I'm saying? And if y'all do have conversation, it's small. But people being in the house together all day together, and you start to be like, dang, I really don't have nothing in common with this person, or I really don't like this person like I thought I did. Now you start to see, people started seeing all these different red flags. Ooh, that's not good. Ooh, that's not good. Ooh, that's not good. And then both of y'all got frustrations because of what's happening in the pandemic, and y'all taking it out on each other because y'all the only ones there. And instead of learning how to process and recognizing that the other person just frustrated, y'all get mad. And it's easy to be like, I'm done. Our generation ain't like our grandparents' generation, our parents' generation, where a lot of them could stick through that. You know what I'm saying? Because because marriage was a lot more sacred. It was held to a higher esteem. You know what I'm saying? In those generations,
it still is to a lot of people. It's just that
it is.
It's just that
it's not
as
prevalent.
And I think it really stems from the single household phenomenon that really makes people comfortable with being by themselves. Mm-hmm. That's just my perspective. I see a lot of people who come from that environment. They then in a relationship, they're out of relationship, and they're very comfortable by themselves, right? I got my own money, right? So you have a number of people who have the individual mindset. And I remember sitting and taking a class in college and how the guy wrote this book, I forget his name, and he was talking about how destructive the individual mindset is to families, right? And that the individual mindset could be the very thing that destroys all of America. Me, myself, and I, right? Mm-hmm. And having that perspective and not having the essence of making and working through a relationship, like you said. For me, it was exact opposite, and I agree with you. I've seen the uptick in both, but I've seen more people get married. And the other thing that I said that I noticed and I recognized, I've seen more people celebrate their dads more than I ever have. And maybe because COVID forced them to sit still, and all they had was Facebook and the information where you could see finally, okay, what Calvin's been talking about,
Exposure.
what these guys been talking,
exposure on all fronts, on all levels, everything.
So you see that
ignored and didn't pay attention to. It was there.
Yep.
Front and center.
Yep.
Bow. Whatever you was overlooking before, it was right there.
Right there. And so that's interesting. You know, Dave is funny, mm-hmm. right? Because from my perspective, the way I see marriage, right, is it adds value.
Right. I believe it does.
Yeah, it adds value to the people, right? So, I hear, well, he ain't got nothing, so you don't know his value. See, we make a mistake with that, right? Because the only thing that, like you said, Dave, the thing that we're looking at is the financial well-being. The thing that he's looking at might be the financial well-being. If we evaluate character, what is my character? What kind of person am I? Can I listen to Boog talk? Right? Can I add some value to when Boog is talking? Can I have a conversation? My son was saying how hard it was to have a conversation with certain people because they couldn't finish the conversation. They were just talking to be talking, and they couldn't finish the conversation. So me and him, we went to war over the very same thing, right? Dad, you just not understanding. Okay, then allow me to understand. Teach me to understand. So I can understand you, then therefore you'll understand me, right? Because if you just think that you understand me and I don't understand you, then you're not really understanding me. So let's go through that process. And so we went through the process, right? Where the conversation, right? And all of a sudden, whoa, oh, now I understand. Yeah. But you got to have those tools, right? Those tools start down here. See, the boy, he's not being taught. He's being left behind. And to me, I don't care how they put it. I don't care what they say, right? Part of this is some revenge in there too, right? Because I didn't have my father, right? And so I don't have to waste my time and be concerned about what's wrong with that boy, right? I can always turn him over, and I had the freedom and the privilege to say his father is not around. I could say that every time something go wrong. I could use that. Well, his daddy not around. You'll be amazed. You in the game, Dave in the game, you'll be amazed at how many parents say that their kids are in trouble and need mentoring and have waited till they were in trouble and didn't forecast on their son, let me get him some mentoring. If he ain't in a sport, right, then let me get him some mentoring. And then when they find that it's a cost or something associated with mentoring, only a certain family or people are willing to pay for that mentoring for their son. They'll just go back and say his dad wasn't around. And I had the greatest conversation in an inbox message from an auntie, right? And she was in this boy's life. The boy, right? I even got involved, talked to the dad. The dad, like, she won't let me, right? She won't let me see my son. She always want to try to control when I get my son, what time I'm supposed to get my son, all of that. Bump it. I ain't getting involved. I'm done. I'll pay my child support. Bump her and the child, right? Not a good mentality. Brother, you got to spend it. Man. That's too painful for me, right? So what does the boy become? After a while, the boy recognizes. What does he become? He becomes the boyfriend. I'm not sleeping with my son, but basically, he becomes the boyfriend. So he becomes the man of the house that you so eloquently said he was, right? And so he can't really flourish in a relationship because in a relationship, the girl, she's going to want a little more. So he can't really flourish in a relationship. Now, where he going? So, of course, we on the phone and auntie, right, we in the messenger, and she said, nah, he's getting high, and all he do is play video games, and it's okay for him to do that. He don't want to go to school. He dropped out. He want to smoke his weed and play video games, and so he don't have to worry about that in his mama's house. See? So, for me, I'm saying, look at that dynamic. The multiple hundreds of stories that I could tell, right? That dynamic right there is destructive to the very thing that we're talking about, the relationships, because how is he going to be in a relationship if he never had an example? Right. And if he never had the example, let's go back to what you said, exposure. Then we go back to what Dave said. So it's easy because I'm going to put this trinket on the table. You educated. Come on in here, girl. You educated. You got 2 masters and a doctorate. You can make Dr. Seuss become whatever. You become the person for the system, but not the person for the family. See? So that's just something to really get into. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because the marrying thing is big. I know a number of men who are ready to marry, and I just don't, finding a woman is a tough thing. And that's just coming from a male's perspective. You hear me? So you can call me whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's tough for both parties, and that's because, let's go back to your individual mindset. Like anything, if you get into your traditions or habits, it's hard to break. And if you've been, I just was reading the article in regards to men not marrying, a lot of the things that came with marriage, they seem they can delay and they see a new change in relationship. But I often tell couples when I'm talking to them, especially to do class, when we're doing groups, what have you, you have to begin to get out of the me and move into the we. And most of the time, that's not how people operate, as you said. They have an individual mindset. But a lot of that, to bring it really close to home, is fear. Yeah. A great deal of the reasons we see reluctancy because people are afraid, male and female. And most of the time, our selection process is weak. In the old days of the Bible, you betrothed someone, that was your wife, or that was your husband. You didn't even sign the papers yet. You didn't jump the broom yet. Right. So there was a sense of commitment to these relationships. Today, there's no sense of commitment because, as you said with Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? Hey, they ain't talking about lately. They talking about right now. What you doing for me right now? Well, in a relationship, this is what I believe. And I stand on this, and nothing will waver this thought process. is that when two people wake up in the morning saying, "What can I do for you?" Husband, you look over to Heather and you say, "Honey, what can I do for you?" And Heather looks over and says, "Calvin, what can I do for you?" Here's what happens. Instead of you having a tug of war about what you done for me lately, what you gonna do for me now, you have two people waking up to say that I'm willing to give. When you got two givers, you only have two recipients. But when you got a giver and a taker, you got divisions. So you can't build a relationship if your mindset coming in is about what I got, what you got. Everything is me, myself, and I. We have moved, and this is the fault of the new generation. I would say my generation going forward is because we have conditioned people to have a me, myself, and I attitude. And unless we convert to me and we take the me and turn it to we, turn the M upside down to make it a we, you're gonna always have this division. And as you see some people getting married, you can go and do your due diligence and get in the household and find out they got married for the wrong reason. The traditional reason for marriage is not just the extension, as you like to say, of legacy, but the reason it being is because it brings two to become one. And most people are not operating that way. They got one, me, you. That's how it works. And if we come together in some harmony, cool in the game. If we don't, you don't go anywhere. So we see a lot of this stuff because who is really teaching their children? People go premarital counseling, but who is taking their child, like we're working with our boys, and beginning to develop them to have a we mentality? And even if it doesn't work out because their neighbor or their family member don't get that, they'll still stand strong within themselves to prepare. And I'm going to close on this. So here's the attitude. If we teach our children in preparation, see, that's what happens. Then you move it to participation. What does this look like? So, Calvin, you come to me and say, "Hey, Dave, I need to move this 300-pound refrigerator." But prior to meeting you 10 years ago, I was bench pressing 300 pounds, right? So every day I'm doing my gym thing. I'm not prepping for you because I don't know you. But 10 years down the road, now that's like having Miss Wright. 10 years down the road, you say, can you help me do this? Can you contribute to this to move this 300-pound refrigerator? Next thing you know, I said, "Oh, yeah, I can do that." Why? Because I prepared myself for when that time would come. Les Brown said, "It's better to be prepared for an opportunity than I have one and have an opportunity and not be prepared." So if we prepare our children early on what a marriage is supposed to look like, and then go in to say, as I tell men all the time, don't look at Proverbs 31 as the woman having to represent these attributes that she display. You need to be able to represent the same thing. Moving in that direction by preparing for that moment when you do meet that right woman, right man, you're bringing something to the table. Most of the time, bring it up to the table to put more on their table and not to distribute and give equally to the table.
Value, no games. Exactly. Value, no games. So, yeah, great point, right? And so this will lead us right into our next piece, heading on out about our boys and the emotions and the lack, right? And this is a call out to the men, right? We're not even getting ready to spend this time talking about sisters. Nope. We're going to the men, right? Too many men are not teaching their sons. They're chasing booty, in my opinion. Too many men, right, don't fight for that inch to teach their son. Yeah, we're the most involved father. Okay, that's what's up. We're the most involved father since 2012. Shout out to the black fathers. But fatherhood on the whole, we're missing something, right? Because our boys are way too emotional and violent. And it hasn't decreased, it has increased, right? So something is happening. Yesterday, as I'm in the car, we pulled to the grocery store to grab a couple of eggs, some fish, right? It's a guy, he's sitting in the car. The mom, she comes out with the kids in a basket, right, with the food. He jumps out the car with a blunt in his mouth. He's still smoking the blunt. Now listen, you grown. I get it, right? He's still smoking the blunt, right? And the kids, right, they're out there. So there's no protecting the innocence of the child or the cognitive health of the child, right? And so once he finished putting the stuff in the car, right, finally he puts He looked like he bent down to put it out, but all throughout the car is the residue. So I'm thinking, now, how many of our children are impacted cognitively for these men that want to get high in the car with their children, and these men that get high so high that they don't want to be around their children, right? Because there are a number of men who will make the decision. I've heard it. I get the calls. So this is not something that I'm just talking about, right? I get the calls. I get the calls where men are fighting to see their kids. Those are the calls that I take. I take those passionately, Dave, right? You're fighting to see your kid. You want to mess with me. We got resources the whole nine. We're going to help as much as we can help you get through this process because we know how important you are. But for the men that don't, right? For the children who have to pull up to an elementary school and get out the car smelling like weed and go into school, it is something wrong with us as men. And I've seen more men do this than anybody. I watched it when my son was in middle school. I seen it just recently where the man was sitting outside the high school, bumping loud music, all the windows down, and smoking weed while they're waiting on the kids to get out of school. To me, that is a problem. It is a lack of respect, and it's a lack of self-respect for you and your children. So you can dress it up how you want to. This is causing emotional harm to our children because cognitively, no matter how you put it, their brains are impacted by this mess. Your actions, your marijuana, your absence, your ability to be abusive, your words, cussing around them, calling the kids, you're startling the kids, right? Your ability to whoop the kid. You're still whooping kids, and with your child being already in the system and CPS is one phone call away, and you done had this kid on the system talking all this shit. You see what I'm saying? That is a problem. You see, you are not appreciative of the opportunity to be in your child's life. So our boys who are lacking the input and the importance of you as dad is not getting that. You're not fighting for that time. And I only deal with the men who fight for that time. If you're not trying to participate and all you calling me about is child support, the first question I'm asking is, are you seeing the child and where are you in the child's life? If there's a discovery, I cut you off immediately because your time is everything. I could care less about that dollar that you're spending. Having time with your child is the thing that the child needs. The child needs your presence, and it needs it to be healthy. It doesn't need you to be cussing. It doesn't need you to be illiterate. It doesn't need you to be taking them around and all they see you do is smoke weed, or you turning up, or you got them in the back seat of the car, and you turning up, you outside of the car. We've seen too many times of what is happening to these children, but our boys need you. They need you, right? And so if you are going with the philosophy, well, I turned out all right because my mother, if you're going with that philosophy, you have failed. That's in my book. I can say that. I've earned the right to say that. Literally. And I stand by that. That's an important aspect as men. Once you become a father, I had this conversation today with my daughter and her man. I understand you being scared. You hear me? I was scared, son. But listen, you don't get to run. You in a different fight now. Right? Because what is the fight? You have a child. What you going to do for it? What's the plan for your child? Right? What are you doing? What do you want for your child? What example do you want to be in front of your child? You can't get high while your child as a baby in the house and you getting high and your child is inhaling marijuana while his or her brain isn't developing. You hurting your child. You can't do that. You can't be yelling and screaming and calling the mother all out her names and calling the father. Y'all can't be doing that when you have a child because you're creating harm cognitively to the child's development, and the child is not already getting enough words, and then you at the school trying to cuss the teacher and you ain't taught them shit. But bull. Nothing. So we can't have that. So again, we've earned this right to have this conversation. I'm going to have it. We have failed immensely with our boys. Our boys are too emotional. They're too violent. They're too unforgiving. They're too whiny. And they're too alone without their species, like-minded physical species. The male must be in front of the male. And what is happening in our relationships is we think we condition ourselves in this mothering and in this environment that we think and don't know what it takes to build with a woman. Now, prove me wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong at. Show me. This 36 years, I go toe to toe. We can go toe to toe on all of this, right? We've been watching this. I've been watching this for 36 years. So we can go toe to toe about this. You as a male father figure are so important. This is why we go and recruit dads to do the mentoring. This is why Dave in the building. Dave is a father. I want my mentees to have Dave in the building. Victor is a father. Right? I want my fathers who can't be healed or who can't see themselves, I want them to come become a mentor so they can see how important they really truly are. Yeah, I know you got to provide. I know you got to hustle. I know you want to do all these things. I know you made a bunch of mistakes. We all did. We got resources that can help you. But I just wanted to make that clear, Dave, that is the reason. We don't even have to go into all the other things that we've gone into in the past about why he's whiny and the mom. No, we're going strictly to that. You are not teaching. You are not proper role modeling. You are not fighting, even if you're being denied access properly. You are not willing to sacrifice, right, to have access to your child. Now, again, we're the most involved father. But you're not in the house. So that means you got to fight for a little more time. That means you got to do things in a little more way. Right? I'm not in the house. Wasn't in the house with Cam. Right? That the system only want to give you every other weekend. Well, they don't really want to do that. Well, what you going to do, Cal? Well, I'm about to go over here to the school. I'm about to put this work in at his school. What? Yeah. I'm about to go put this work in at his school. Why? I got to make sure the environment around my son, he's smart. He can get an education. So I'm going over here. I'm going to make this deal, and I'm going to be in the school with my son at, like I've been in school with all my kids, but I'm going to go be in the school with my son at, and I'm going to make sure that my son knows that I'm in the building with no pressure. I'm in the building. He watched his dad come into the building, work. Where your dad at? He's somewhere in here. They'd ask him, where your dad at? Oh, he's somewhere in the building. He knew, right? Regardless to all the games, all the other stuff, we don't let that. We don't let that happen. Mm-hmm. Because when we let that happen, that brings up pain. And that is something that us men grow up with and live with. We live with that pain. Why were you not there? We ask that, right? And so somehow in its own little intrinsic way, it devalues another brother. I can put you in a place. I can devalue you and put you in a place where I had my dad because he never was around, so I don't have to care about you, right? This got to be a component to how it's so easy for us to kill each other. You see what I'm saying? It's got to be something in there, right, where we're failing, where it's okay for me to kill my brother that look like me over a pair of shoes, a donut, $60, $32. He owed me $1,000. His life wasn't worth none of that, right? Oh, yeah. He said this about my mama. He did that, right? He did this. My girl. Oh, you get set up now. So now the girl can say, oh, he touched me. You don't ask her, did he really touch you? You just execute him. All right? Now we got all of these things because of that one thing. So this to the men, Dave. Step your shit up. I'm sorry. Fight. Get over there. Do like the rest of us have to do, but become impactful. Run both households. If you got to, I'm about to run both of these. Been there, done that. You want the tools? Call. I got the tools for you, right? But you got to be able to be in that position, and you got to be man about doing that work, right? Because it's really work. Yeah, you're not going to get to do all the things you want to. I didn't get to do all the things. You wanted me to be materialistic, Dave? Oh yeah, I want to be materialistic. Oh no, I got a son. I got 2 sons. I got problems. I got to be in the middle of that to make sure the outcome from them, they have opportunity too. Once they have opportunity, Cam will be done. I'm in the game. Now you're going to see. You want to see. Now you get to see. Oh, you can do this, huh, Cal? You can do that. Yeah, you're starting to see. But I'm just saying, Dave, and you can take it from there, but I'm just saying, and Boog, you can pour in, this on the man, period. God said what we had to do as men. The first ministry God even birthed was man. Man must lead. Man must be the leader. Man must go. Men must write. And so we do a great opportunity. Somebody posted the other day, I said something about voting, and the brother said, man, y'all kill me. I said, well, first of all, brother, I would never kill you. Right? We vote for prevention, brother. We already dealing with a lot. So I got to go vote anyway for prevention. I can't wake up tomorrow on your word and then you say, well, that's what they do. And that's all. No, I got to go vote, brother. So all that stuff you talking about, you can keep that. But I got to go vote. Why? Because I got to prevent things from happening to you. Because you don't see it that way. You want to see it your way. You like to think that you can just, that this world is still not growing and the people are not still doing things. And like all of a sudden, you suddenly going to be able to build something. And then you're going to, and when you can't build it, you're going to go, well, we're like, yeah, you didn't vote, did you? Yeah. Oh, so that, what you got right there, you can't have it. Man, they always know your non-participation is evil. Non-participation is evil. I need you, Dad. I need you. I need you, Dad. I need my father. I need you. So go ahead, Dave, so I can get off this thing, man. I guess Dave went.
Brother Dave, you muted.
You muted, brother.
Make sure your volume is on.
Oh, my apology. Yeah, I think you said something that was essential, and there was a theme in there. It was called willing. You can walk around ignorant all day long, but we all are ignorant in something. We all lack some knowledge somewhere. However, when there are resources, I was telling a young man yesterday, no matter what, God will always have a ram in the bush. So no one can walk this earth and say, well, I didn't know. I didn't know. This is the most knowledgeable age in history. You can hit a button and get any kind of information you want, access to any program that you want to tap into to advance yourself to be better. However, if you're not willing, then you can't get anywhere. Everybody want to be saved. Everybody want to go to heaven, but nobody want to do the work. Well, as I tell people, salvation is the easy part. The real work come afterwards. Now you have to work towards that maturity. That's the same in trying to be a father, trying to be responsible and accountable. There's a level of maturity. And what we're seeing is there's a maturity deprivation that exists. And maturity is about gaining that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be able to execute that which you learn from the discernment of what you've been invested in. And as they say, if you don't invest in you to improve you, you hurt you. And so most of the time you see these people, these individuals you spoke about, and they're out there doing their thing, that's because they're walking around in ignorance. I'm not putting them down because I'm walking around in ignorance in some area too. I didn't know. But when I became willing to know, I began to grow. So our time is moving. So I'm going to let Bug go on and jump in. I know he got some depth.
I don't really have nothing to add. You know what I'm saying? Fathers have always been important. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I'm glad I had my dad around. I mean, at different times, he wasn't because he was working so much. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, I still always had my dad. He always made a point to, you know what I'm saying, give us time. You know what I'm saying? So,
And we have to get credit
a
to
lot of
that.
people
See,
don't have that.
yeah, a lot of people never acknowledge the fact. See, you can't occupy two spaces. You can't have daddy at home. It happened at work. And people say, well, you at work, you at work. Well, there's a reality. Do you know in the biblical times, the father would be taking care of that home and he'd be 40 miles away and it takes him almost a month to get back. But he out there doing what he got to do. So there's a reality. But everybody understood the respect. And Calvin said the value of that father. When Abraham went to go save Lot, he wasn't at home. He wasn't at home, but he came back home. And he had kids and what have you. When you look at this, men were designed to take care and do their due diligence. But again, that willingness to stay invested in the home. See, it's one thing to get a home, like getting a house, right? It's like getting that ride you want. But if you want a classic, you got to keep investing in it. You can't get it to like I got a classic. You can't keep a 20-year classic looking good unless you invest in it. You got to be willing to invest in your family, but you got to be willing to invest in yourself to spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and socially mature so you can be an ample father who brings something to the table. But as long as you keep coming up with these excuses because you are lazy emotionally, because you're holding on to that negativity, you're going to suffer. And who else suffers from that? All our boys.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, hey, man, no matter how we look at it, no matter how we feel about it, your opportunity, we're seeing a lot of people go. We're seeing a lot of men pass away. Right? You got to do right, get right, and be right. I wasn't where I needed to be until I needed to get there. And now I'm here. And I still got ways to go. But the one thing for sure, I knew I couldn't move another inch 3 years ago when I started praying and fasting to the Lord to bring me my children. And he did. And I got them. And I ain't never letting them go. And they are first. That's what a marriage brings to children. When you have a healthy marriage, you are bringing to children, they are first. Because we're teaching them every day. With that being said, next weekend, next Monday, looking forward to the show, Dave. Appreciate you getting on. See you in the gym in a minute. But listen, everybody, there is a way that you can put your family first. And we got to change that now. You can't wait. My name is Calvin T. Mann, president and founder. This has been EMIY TV. Peace.